Hi, this is Chrissy, and welcome to For the Love of Animals.
Hey, this is Maria. Welcome to For the Love of Animals.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Tim, and to my right is Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
You're listening to For the Love of Animals.
Yep.
Got a couple of things we want to talk about today regarding entertainment with animals. Using animals for entertainment, whether it be horse racing, dog racing, circuses, and we'll even get down to SeaWorld. Mm-hmm. What these animals go through to entertain us,
right?
And what their lives are like. It's pretty. I didn't start looking into this until a couple of weeks ago, and from what I see, it's horrible. It's horrible what they do to these animals. It makes me not want to go to SeaWorld or another circus again.
Right. Yeah, because you don't think about that kind of stuff until when you're a kid, and then when you get older, it's like
you think it's a great show, entertaining, and you really don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So we just think it's magic.
Yeah.
That dog magically flipped backwards because he knew to do that.
Right. Yes.
Or Shamu. He made a big splash because he knew to do that in the wild, which that's not wild. That's training.
That's training, and like you said, we're going to focus on the methods they use for training. Some of it's not pretty, so it needs to be exposed.
We also have a caller going to
be
calling in a little later. Don. He's from. Oh.
You had it?
I had it, and I just clicked it out of there.
It's okay. I know these tabs are touchy.
Yes. He's from the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida.
Okay.
Based out of Fort Lauderdale. So
nice.
He'll be calling in a little later to speak with us about animal cruelty, because he has some experience actually with.
I'm sure he's got stories, good and bad.
Yes. Not to put any tears in anybody's eyes, but he'll be talking about, I guess, some of the animals that he had seen and what they had gone through while training.
Right.
So, animals in entertainment actually refers to the act of performing animals, fight. Or kill for the humans' enjoyment.
Yeah.
It's doing things that animals shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. Definitely, and how they're treated, and
Well, it's sad because they should be treated better. I understand the show must go on. Whether the animal is sick or not, but they shouldn't be treated the way they're being treated. I can understand an elephant, a 1,500-pound elephant stomping on you, and you're using defense, the defense that to ward off this animal who's trampling you, not for human pleasure, not for human enjoyment.
Right.
There's minimal laws, state and federal, protecting these animals. But many of the animals aren't even covered underneath those acts, those welfare acts, which is a shame.
And I'm sure it varies from state to state, yes.
It does vary from state to state.
Yeah.
While zoos and aquariums may seem to be educational, those animals, you really think that they're happy in the environment that they're in? They're not home. They're not in their natural habitat.
Right.
Yes, it is educational for the kids to go, but those animals, they're not happy.
No. I was actually reading an article earlier about 10 things you didn't know about SeaWorld.
Oh, did you?
I did.
Oh, I will pull that up.
Yep. I'll see if I can find the article. And it's just, number one, their sunburns are covered up with black zinc oxide. So orcas at SeaWorld spend most of their time floating listlessly at the surface of the water with little or no shade from the hot, blistering sun. In the wild, orcas spend up to 95% of their time submerged and would find shade in the depths of the ocean. So just because you see them in a pool at SeaWorld, that's not...
So what you're saying, the pool at SeaWorld is so shallow they can't get to the depths to protect their skin from the sun.
That's right. So they actually do get sunburn.
So they cover it up.
Yeah.
They cover it up to, make it look like he's all right.
Yeah, it says the deepest tank is 40 feet deep.
Yeah, it's
and
not
it's
deep.
not nearly deep enough to give them a reprieve from the harsh elements.
I mean, from their natural home in the ocean is hundreds of feet deep. I mean, 40 feet deep. That's pretty enclosed for an elephant. For a giraffe. Giraffe. Wow. I'm sorry. I was reading something else. For a whale, a killer whale.
Yeah, right. And even though they put the zinc oxide on them as like a sunblock, most of them already have sunburn before they even put it on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so. And a lot of the orcas in SeaWorld were actually kidnapped and sent to SeaWorld.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard that they were taken out of their
out of their
home.
ocean homes. Yeah.
And brought to SeaWorld?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
5 orcas currently at SeaWorld were kidnapped from their ocean homes, as were others who have since died. For example, Tilikium, I guess that's his name, a 32-year-old orca was captured by the age of 2 by a marine cowboy.
That's what they call him, as a cowboy?
A marine cowboy, yeah. Yeah. But he was taken from his natural environment because he was injured. And instead, because he was injured, he was torn away from his family against his will and confined to a small concrete tank for a hefty profit.
For a hefty profit, that's exactly why.
Yeah.
That's exactly why the cowboy had harvested him. Mm-hmm. I mean, didn't harvest him to kill him, but harvest him to sell him off to an aquarium, which SeaWorld was the buyer of that.
Exactly.
You don't think about those things. People think that they're animals that they're looking at were born in captivity. That's all they know.
Right.
It's not the case. It's
know.
not the case because it's culture shock for them at that point. I mean, I know 2 years old, that's a young age for a whale, but they
considering the 30,
and now it's 32 years old, but he still has wild instincts. He's still a wild animal.
Right.
But guests don't look at it like that.
No.
Guests,
cool, look at the orca.
Yeah. Mommy, I want to feed the orca. I want to feed the dolphins. Same thing with dolphins. They're taken out of their habitat and brought to SeaWorld.
Yeah, and the most famous one is Shamu.
Yes, Shamu, yes. How many Shamus have they had?
Yeah, well, in 1965, the first ever orca show at SeaWorld was performed by a female orca named Shamu.
Mm-hmm.
During Shamu's capture, her mother was shot with a harpoon and killed before the young orca's very eyes by a marine cowboy named Ted Griffin.
Oh, I wonder if it was the same one who had captured this 2-year-old orca and brought it over there for a pretty profit.
His partner actually worked for SeaWorld and was assigned to bring orcas into the park.
So that was their job.
He continued kidnapping and slaughtering orcas, and at one point he hired divers to slit open the bellies of 4 orcas, fill them with rocks, put anchors around their tails, and sink them to the bottom of the ocean so their deaths would not be discovered.
Jeez.
I know. Yeah.
That's a shame.
It is.
That's despicable. Despicable.
I don't know if I want to read this one.
It's a little graphic.
Yeah.
It's a little graphic. We'll skip that one because for the children.
For the children.
Unsafe for SeaWorld trainers.
Go ahead.
SeaWorld corporate incident logs contain reports of more than 100 incidents of orcas' aggression at its parks, often resulting in injuries of humans and even causing one death by extensive internal bleeding. So yeah, they could lash out at any moment.
Well, yeah.
You're a trainer and you're in the water with this wild animal and it's not cooperating with you.
Right.
And
it's pissed.
It doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
It's in a 40-foot tank.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to be there. Of course it's going to lash out. And these are the things that people have to look at. Mm-hmm. Because, yes, it's a wild animal, and you're training it doesn't mean that it's domestic at that point or tame. Because their instincts will take over, and things like this will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Following the 2006 attack, the orca on the attack on an orca by an orca on a trainer, excuse me,
Okay.
at SeaWorld in San Diego, concluded that it was only a matter of time before someone was killed while interacting with orcas. See, they predicted it.
Yeah, they knew.
They
Yeah.
predicted it was only a matter of time because
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. They're disrupting the balance of life.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're taking wild animals out of the ocean and putting them in captivity
Right.
in facilities for our view and pleasure.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, it says orcas in the wild have an average life expectancy of 30 to 50 years. Their estimated maximum lifespan is 60 to 70 years for males and 80 to more than 100 for females. And the ones in captivity can live to like 9.
Well, see now, if
Yeah.
you look at it like that, that's a short lifespan considering they could have a better life outside of the
Right.
tank.
Mm-hmm.
But in that first one that you had said that you had talked about, this 32-year-old orca was captured at 2 years old,
Right.
and he lived to be 32.
Yeah. So,
And he's still living. It matters how they're treated.
exactly.
That's
Right.
what it is.
And who's training them?
Yeah. Who's training them? Who's taking care of them?
Right.
You ever seen those dorsal fins that they have?
Those are the back fins or the
It's
side
the
ones?
top. It's the top fin
fins, okay.
on the very
Yeah.
top next to the blow, right behind the blowhole. Well,
Okay.
if you go to SeaWorld and you see those dorsal fins, they're flopped over.
Uh-huh.
That's not natural.
Really?
No, it's not
I
natural.
didn't know that.
It happens when orcas are in captivity.
Oh.
It collapses its dorsal fin. It's signs of being unhealthy. SeaWorld claims that it's a condition common for all natural orcas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Common and natural for all orcas.
Yeah, at
of course,
SeaWorld.
they got to cover it up.
Right.
That's not the fact, but
Yeah.
you could tell that that's not healthy. It should be standing
Yeah.
straight up.
Compared to the 1 to 5% males orcas in their natural ocean that don't have that collapsed
Dorsal fin. Yeah.
So and it goes back to the like the trainers, but some of the trainers are performers too, basically.
Yeah,
So
they are.
they're not biologists.
No, they're just trainers. They're not scientists.
No.
They don't know what's right about. They know how to care for an animal, but they really don't know the ins and outs of biology.
Right. Their job is to put on a good show.
Or marine biology.
Yeah.
Yes, they're just there to put on a good show.
I mean, there are some that, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say there are some that do know. So, but for the most part, yeah. But they're not saying good things about SeaWorld, though.
No, well, they've never had any good things to say about SeaWorld. Throughout the years, everybody hears something, throwing a little dirt on them.
Right.
They shouldn't.
And they're all over the place, too. I know they're in California, they're in Florida. Yeah. I think there's one out towards PA, towards Pittsburgh, out that way.
But what I don't like is them taking the whales from the ocean to bring them to their facility and trying to tame them and train them. It's one thing being born in captivity. Mm-hmm. It's another thing taking them from their families and their homes.
Yeah, because that's there's no Amber Alert for the orcas.
Yeah.
But
did you know SeaWorld fails to care for their animals? Well, that's basically what we're talking about. But this is
right.
This is something else. Failure to provide drain covers that secure and fasten in order to minimize the potential risk of animal entrapment. Now, these drain covers, when they move from tank to tank,
oh yeah,
and they have the gate going by,
mm-hmm.
they need more of those. It says it's a violation, and it resulted in a sea lion death.
Aww.
Prompted by PETA.
Yeah.
A complaint about a child who had been bitten by a dolphin at SeaWorld. These drain covers are needed for their safety.
Right. It's a safety thing,
for
but
their safety.
but at the same time, it's it's hurting them.
That's basically what it is, and hurting the park guests.
Yeah.
They're hurting the park guests.
Right, because the animals are getting mad, and that's how they're gonna lash out.
I mean, with the stingray, they have a stingray exhibit in Orlando SeaWorld.
Okay.
And they have a bunch of sea rays swimming around in this, I'd say 2-foot pool, like a kiddie pool.
Right.
And stingrays, they have stingers.
Yeah.
Now, with these stingrays that they have on exhibit, you're allowed to touch them and pet them as they go by. You're allowed to reach into the tank and touch them. They remove those stingers from these stingrays, and then the public could touch these animals. I mean, because if you touch a stingray, you're like the whole Steve Irwin thing. You remember when he was riding on top of a stingray, he got impaled by his sting, his stingray, the stinger that he has, a little point on top of his back.
Yeah.
I
never liked that guy, so that stingray was my hero there for a minute.
That stingray, that's messed up.
I know.
It's messed up.
But anyway.
But it's they remove these stingers from the stingrays so no one gets hurt. And that's no good for. I mean, even though these stingrays are in captivity and they're not trying to defend themselves, they're not in the wild, fearing for their life.
Right.
They take them out for our enjoyment.
Right.
For our pleasure.
And they suffer in those cramped, unnatural living conditions.
Oh,
That's in this article too.
Oh yeah. That's the worst part. There's not enough room for them to live. Like I said,
some of the spaces,
culture shock.
Yeah, some of the spaces they keep them in, some of the tanks are the size of a bathtub. Now, I mean, come on, where are you supposed to go there? Yeah. I mean, SeaWorld presents itself as a family establishment full of fun educational activities. However, these activities harm animals physically and emotionally. SeaWorld has the financial means and ability to create coastal sanctuaries where the orcas could have a more natural and less stressful life, and where they could feel the tides and waves, see, sense, and communicate with their wild relatives and other ocean animals, and engage in other natural behavior, but they're denied. But instead, the park chooses to stick with the same inhumane business model that is used for 50 years, despite all the violent and deadly incidents and evidence of harm. So, it's something to think about next time your kids want to say, let's go to SeaWorld.
Oh, yeah.
No, let's not. Instead, we did.
It's animal cruelty.
It is.
There's no other word to describe it. It's animal cruelty. Just for our pleasure.
Right.
I'm looking at a picture on that same website, and it looks like an orca, a killer whale, is sticking his head out of the water a little bit. And I'll post this on Facebook.
Orcas and killer whales are the same thing.
They're the same thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes. They're the same. Orca, killer whale, same
Right.
thing. But this orca, probably one of the shamus, underneath his chin is exposed flesh, exposed muscle.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like he had rubbed it and kept rubbing it on some rough surface to scratch himself or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But it looks like a really bad abrasion.
Okay. We'll have to share that on the Facebook page.
Yeah,
so people
and
can look at it.
with this, they should treat it.
Exactly.
Because it looks like right in front of the killer whale is a trainer. And
wow.
It looks like he's still performing. He's still doing tricks. He's still performing with this abrasion on his chin. I'll post this to Facebook.
Okay, yeah. And it's not like we're just bashing SeaWorld, because it's not just SeaWorld. I mean, there's all sorts of, animal abuse going around. The pony rides at, the carousels, the fairs.
If you ever bring your kids to a pumpkin field or a corn maze or something like that, they usually have these.
Not fake carousels. We're talking about the mini pony rides where they're strapped in there. They have to walk in circles for hours. Mm-hmm. It's just inhumane.
Well, the living conditions that they're in is being transported
Yeah.
in a stable, probably crammed in there with all the ponies, a small little trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably fed and nourished, well, because they have to be able to stand
Yeah.
and walk for hours on end at these parties. I
Yeah.
mean, when you have a kid and it's their birthday,
Right.
you get a petting zoo. They come over
If
and
you can afford it.
If you
yeah.
if you can afford it, yeah, they'll bring over goats, sheep. They'll
Yeah.
bring over ponies for pony rides.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because they're just they don't have a choice. The ponies
don't.
guys. I don't want.
They don't have a choice.
because they're actually shackled in by their heads. So yeah, and they they're forced to walk around in one direction and stay at the same speed. They have to deal with the noise. There was one in Spain. They did a scientist was evaluating the ponies, and some of them are actually deaf from all the circus music, the whatever, and the screaming kids, and so they have to endure. It's not just the noise; it's the weather, especially down here in Florida. There's no shade, you know what I mean. So it's
dehydration could be a factor while you're down here for
Right.
animals. You always got to keep them hydrated.
Yeah.
Especially in the summer months. The summer months are brutal down
Yeah.
here. There's a lot to look out for when you're caring for a bunch of animals.
Sure.
Of course.
And then there's also those places that have there's sanctuaries for these animals that they don't want them anymore.
What, the preserves?
Yeah. The call just came in.
Oh, we have our caller.
Awesome. Here comes Don. Good. Okay.
Hello, Don.
Yes. Hi. How are you? How did you know it was me?
I have ESP. Call it
Okay.
call it a sixth sense. How are you?
Good. Is this Tim or is this somebody else?
This is Tim. We're on the air right now.
Oh, okay. Hi. Nice to be with you.
You're with Maria. She's my co-host next to me. Say hi, Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hello. And thank you for calling in.
We were just talking about animals for entertainment. What animals go through for entertaining us, and we were talking about SeaWorld a little bit, and we were going to get on the discussion of circuses, but I heard that you have a little experience with that.
Yeah, well, the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida, I work for the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida. I was a volunteer for the past 25 years there, and I am communications director now for the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida. The website, by the way, and you can get all kinds of information there, is arff.org. That's ARFF.org. And there's information about all the different types of issues that deal with animals in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
As far as circuses go, we demonstrate against the use of animals in circuses all over the state of Florida. That includes huge circuses like Ringling Brothers and Cole Brothers. That includes small circuses like the ones that you see along the roadside,
Yes.
and the ones that are done for charity events, because these animals suffer immensely in circuses. It all goes on behind the scenes. Nobody knows how the animals are trained except for the people who train them and except for people who videotape and take pictures of these animals the way they're trained behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you a little synopsis of it. Baby elephants are taken from their mother when they're very, very young, only a couple of months old. Now, elephants, if you know anything about elephants, they stay with their families for their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Circuses steal away baby elephants from their mothers when they're very young. They tie the mother elephant up in chains. They rip the baby away from her. The baby is screaming. The mother is screaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrible sight, like any baby and mother being separated. And then they chain up the baby elephant by all four legs. And the trainers, for the next several weeks, spend time beating the daylights out of the baby elephant with metal pipes called bull hooks. Those are metal pipes with hooks on the end.
Yes.
They use electric prods. I mean, it's a horrible sight where the animal is screaming the entire time. And they do this to make the animals submit. if they can break the spirit of the baby elephant and they can make it submit to the trainers by beating the daylights out of it hours and hours at a time, day after day, week after week, then at that point the training begins.
Well,
and that's when they make them do stupid things like standing upside down on their trunk, or standing up and holding each other by the back, all this kind of thing.
Now, I guess intimidation is a factor after being bludgeoned and beaten so many times in their younger life. Intimidation, if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen to you, makes them train.
That's the reason that the animals perform, not because they love the circus, not because they get paid a huge amount of money, not because they like the lights and the music or they want to be in show business, but because they're beaten. They have the daylights beaten out of them with metal pipes and with bull hooks. That's what the metal pipes are, with hooks on the end, and they use electric rods and chains and everything else. No animal ever woke up out of its natural habitat and said, you know what? I don't think I want to live with my family in the jungle or in the plains anymore and be free. I would like some guy to come and separate me from my family, make me live in chains and in cages the rest of my life, and beat the daylights out of me every day. No animal ever said that.
No.
Right.
Well, it's not natural. It's not natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not natural at all. And, of course, they do this all when the public is not watching, before the lights come up in the circus. But if you notice, if you ever go to the circus, notice that the trainers always are holding a bull hook in their hand. They don't use it to beat the animals, but they're always holding a bull hook. It's a metal pipe. It's about 2 to 2.5 feet long.
I've seen that.
I've seen that.
They hook it on their ear to lead them. They hook it on their ear to lead them around. I've seen them use that.
And sometimes they just hold it up and let them see it. You know, the elephants are not stupid. They see that the trainer is standing there with the bull hook, and they know what it means.
So that's
why they don't have to beat the daylights out of them in front of all your little kids, because it's already done behind the scenes. And they do it just before the animals come out of every circus. Just before they come out, before the music comes up, they use it on every elephant that comes out. And you can see videotape of this. It's not like an animal activist or any group is making this up. There's a lot of videotape online. If you go to ringlingbeatsanimals.com, ringlingbeatsanimals.com, or if you just go to YouTube and look up elephant training or ringling elephants, or use any of those keywords, you will see what goes on behind the scenes.
You will actually see
it's not pretty.
How they train these animals to perform the stunts that they want them to perform. And like you said, that they start out really young, these elephants.
They do. They separate baby elephants from the mother elephants when they're very young because they're easier to handle. They're easier to control that way.
As you said, they break their spirit first before they start training them.
Right, exactly. That's how if you get a sad, beaten down animal, it's a lot easier for them to control than it is, an animal that's been around for several years and is full grown, because that's much harder to handle, of course, and they want to take the easiest way out. Again, it's all done behind the scenes, and it's all done to make money. It's all for profit for these circuses, and they don't. A lot of times, Ringling and some of these other circuses will say, well, we're really big in conservation. If it wasn't for us, some of these elephants wouldn't live anymore. But you know what? We need to protect their environment and not lock them up in cages and railroad cars and in chains all the time, because that's no life for them.
Oh, and the confined...
just because they breed these animals to use them in circuses year after year, generation after generation, doesn't mean it's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make them a humanitarian.
Not at all. There is no such thing as conservation in the circus world.
It's
all about profit.
Right.
Not saying that elephants are innocent, because they could be very powerful animals when pushed the wrong way. But what about tigers? Have any experience knowing about what they would do with tigers, training them or anything?
Well, yeah, it's the same thing. Tigers are naturally wild animals.
Yes.
They belong in the wild. That's why they're called wild animals.
Yes.
We try and teach kids that wild animals belong in the wild, not in railroad cars, not in chains, not whipped with a chain or with a bull hook. But they do the same thing. Some of the tigers that they use in circuses have some of their teeth removed, or else they use muzzles on them so that they can beat the daylights out of them. Again, you can go to YouTube and you can see where some of these either training sessions or some of these actual performances went awry, and where some of these tigers, they're supposed to be all sitting on stools around in a circle. Sometimes they can't take anymore, and they sometimes attack.
Right.
I mean, that's what happened about 4 or 5 years ago in Las Vegas. That famous white lion or white tiger.
Oh, yes, the Siberian tiger, yeah.
Their name.
Yes, I remember the Siberian tiger.
Yeah, I can't think of those two guys' names. One
Siegfried,
of them was severely
Siegfried
mauled
and Roy.
because of
Siegfried and Roy,
the
yeah.
tiger that probably couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's in the tiger's mind, but if I was forced to not live in my natural habitat against my will and forced to perform and beaten, I would probably go wild on that guy too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Now let me tell you that there's very, very little oversight by the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA. They do inspect the circuses from time to time, but there's not like traveling inspectors that go with them and check out every cage, every inch. They're not there all the time to see that they're getting vet care properly, or that they're getting fed properly, or any of that.
Yeah, I'm just
nonetheless,
gonna.
Nonetheless, Cole Brothers got a $15,000 violation a couple of years ago for violating the Animal Welfare Act for improper handling, for improper vet care. Wow. They got a $150,000 fine for violating the Endangered Species Act for unlawfully selling 2 Asian elephants. Ringling got the biggest fine of all time about 3 years ago, more than $250,000, $270,000 for violating the Animal Welfare Act.
Wow.
So yeah, but you know what? It doesn't matter to them. It's a cost of doing business.
Yeah, that's comes with the territory, right?
Exactly.
You're going to have those setbacks, and the practices that they're conducting over there, they have to expect that they might get hit with a fine for some little thing that they're not doing right.
Right.
Exactly. And when the circus comes to South Florida, they come to. I'm in South Florida right now. When they come to the Miami area, they go to the American Airlines Arena. They're there for about. I'm talking about Ringling. They're there for about a week to 10 days in the winter in January, and we have a dedicated group of activists that go out for almost every show and hand out leaflets so people going in and coming out know what they're paying for. You got to know where your money is going. They have to know that these animals are not happy performers, that they're beaten, captive, forced performers.
Right.
We use a megaphone so people hear what's going on. We use signs. We have some video that we see. And despite that, some people go in anyway. But quite a few people look at it and they find out what the circus entails
is
for the
really
animals,
about,
and they decide to turn around and they decide to leave.
Yeah.
So, as more and more people get educated, we see on a yearly basis the number of people who actually go in and buy tickets is diminishing year after year. That's the reason that circuses like Ringling and Cole Brothers and the rest of them, that's the reason that they give so many free tickets away in schools to kids.
Is because
school systems, unfortunately, oblige and they give them these freebies because what happens? You give a kid a free ticket,
and you go and buy
he's not going to go by himself. He's going to go, and the parents are going to buy tickets. So they gave away a free ticket, and they're still selling 2 tickets to the parents.
And then when they get in there, they buy popcorn, they buy drinks, and then that's more profit towards them.
That's right.
It's all money making. It's all money making.
It's all business.
Yeah, it's all business.
Right.
Yep.
For our enjoyment, our pleasure. I mean, most kids love to see that, but the parents could be sitting there cringing, knowing what's going on behind the scenes with these animals.
Some of them cringe, and some of them really just don't care. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was about 5 years old. I went to the circus. I have to admit that. My parents brought me to the circus because they didn't know any better back then.
Right.
I'm very old, so this is a long time ago. No, I'm not really that old, but this was a long time ago, and my parents brought me to the circus, and, my parents would never do that now because they know what goes into it. I would never bring any kids to any circus because it's just plain wrong. That's the bottom line here. What they do to animals in circuses is just plain wrong. If you did to your dog what they do to the animals in the circus, you'd go to jail.
Oh, you would.
And that's one of the things I say on the bullhorn every time we go to the circus. If you did to your dog what they do to the animals in the circus, you would go to jail because it's abuse. They hit those animals with electric prods, with metal pipes with hooks on the end, with chains. Do that to your dog, you're going to jail. Now, why is it okay to do that to tigers and elephants?
I was just going to say now, why is it okay for the circus animals get that abuse? You know, is there an act that they're not entitled to for abuse, for animal cruelty?
Right. It's just that there's no way that I can ever condone animals being forced to perform in circuses or anywhere, because they are forced. It's not then anything that they ever chose, and it's completely unnatural to them.
No, yeah.
It's the same thing with animals in aquariums. Like we do this. There's a lot of people with the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida, and a lot of independent people who are not part of any organizations who go out almost every weekend in front of the Miami Seaquarium, where there's that huge killer whale, Lolita, the killer whale. They go out there and they demonstrate, because that whale has been there for about 3 decades. Wow. There's no reason that whale should live in that tiny little pool, that little cement prison with chlorinated water for the rest of her life. And a lot of groups are trying to get her to be brought back to her natural habitat, which is the other side of the country, up in Seattle, off of Puget Sound.
Now, that
has been done to whales before, and it can be done to this whale.
Now, was this whale taken from her habitat, taken from her home?
Yeah.
By harvesters, or you want to say sea cowboys?
Yeah, that's what they do. You know, they go. It's really a horrible sight, because these animals, again, they travel hundreds of miles every day in the ocean. Yeah. They stay together in packs. They stay together in families. They have ways of communicating that we'll probably never understand. It's not just some dumb animal swimming in the water. They have highly developed brains. They're very smart. They communicate with each other, whether we understand how they do it or not. And for us to just drop nets out there and take these thrashing, screaming animals and separate them from families,
beautiful
put them on put them on these boats and bring them to amusement parks all over the world. To make them live in these tiny cages and withhold food until they perform stupid tricks like jumping out of the water or jumping through hoops. Just unnatural. There's nothing educational about it. It's really a horrendous thing that we do to animals for our amusement for a few minutes. And that's what it is. We abuse animals for our amusement for just a few minutes. And that's why a lot of people call these amusement parks abusement parks.
Abusement parks, yes, I've heard of that.
I agree there.
We were just talking about SeaWorld, and they have an orca about 32 years old right now, and they captured him when he was the age of 2. And he's been sitting inside of he's been sitting inside of a tank that was only 40 feet deep. That's,
right.
That's
it's horrendous. It would be like me chaining you in a bathtub or in a phone booth for the rest of your life.
For the rest of my life,
that's the size that these animals are living in for the rest of their lives. Now, in Miami, you're talking about the one in SeaWorld in Orlando, but in Miami, they used to have a couple of whales in that little pool. It was Hugo and Lolita. And they were both taken about the same time. Lolita is still alive. She's been in there since 1970.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
Yeah. I believe she's the longest in captivity, being in a prison like that.
Yeah, being
Hugo, her partner in there, committed suicide.
How?
And a lot of people don't believe that that's true, but that animal couldn't take the stress of swimming around in circles for years and years in that little tiny cement pool. And one day he just swam full speed into the cement wall of the tank and killed himself.
Wow. And he knew
that was better than living in that little cage forever. So you see, it's not just about how they're badly treated, how they're captured, how they're abused in training. But it's mental problems that we give these animals. We actually drive them insane by keeping them locked up in these tiny things. A whale like that belongs in the ocean.
I don't understand how an animal could think about running himself into a wall to kill himself. He must have went through some traumatic thoughts in his head.
Yeah,
exactly. And it wasn't a pretty sight. There are pictures online you can see of them using not a forklift, but using one of these big tools that they use in construction to lift that huge dead animal out of the pool.
Oh, the crane.
And then he was just dumped in the Miami-Dade
ocean inlet
landfill.
Oh, the landfill. Wow.
It was a horrible situation.
Yeah, that's
and
horrible.
Again, this is supposed to be entertaining.
Yeah.
This is, all this torture, all this abuse, these animals being miserable every minute of their lives is supposed to be entertaining for you. Or it's not.
No, it's not. I mean, it's if you knew what was going on, it's really not entertaining. It's sickening.
Yeah.
It is.
For sure.
It is.
Do you know about that that Discovery Channel show coming up on Sunday about the eaten alive with the anaconda?
That I don't know. No. What about it?
There's someone who's being suited up in, I guess, protective armor, and he's going to be eaten alive by an anaconda, and I guess passed through his digestive tract and released on the other side. And they're viewing this, they're showing this on Discovery Channel this Sunday, and I wanted to see if you had any thoughts about that.
I didn't know anything about it. I haven't seen any promos for it. I really don't have that much time to watch too much TV. But, anything you do like that is just for publicity. It's for ratings. It's for making money. It's not. There's nothing beneficial for the animal. I mean, we're not going to learn anything about the animal by doing that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly true.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, it's horrible. I don't see a point to it.
Just because we can do things to animals
doesn't mean we
that
have to.
we should.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do things to the elderly. We can do things to little kids. We can do things to mentally impaired people. But it's wrong to do those things to them.
Now, I see on your website it says protecting Florida's wildlife. Do you do anything with the wildlife around this parts? Just it says alligators, coyotes, iguanas. Do you guys do anything with?
Yeah, as far as coyotes, there are coyotes in all 50 states.
Yeah.
A lot of times people buy a house or a condo, and suddenly one day they see a coyote wandering around the streets, and they panic, and they call the FWC, the Fish and Wildlife Commission, and they want that thing rounded up, and they want him killed. Well, you know what? They've been around for hundreds of years, longer than we've been here. They are not usually aggressive to people. If you have animals, you don't want to leave them loose because you don't want them to be attacked. You don't want to leave cats or dogs loose outside because, first of all, it's the wrong thing to do for them, but you don't want them to be attacked by coyotes. But all you have to do for coyotes and black bears and any other animals that may be wandering around is make sure you don't leave dog food or cat food outside, and make sure your garbage cans are sealed. If there's no food source, they move on. If there's a food source, they're going to keep coming back over and over again. So you don't need to... There's no need for a war on Florida wildlife like bears and coyotes and other animals like that. Just make sure that you don't attract them to your neighborhood. Protect your animals by keeping them inside where they belong anyway.
Yeah, they're wild animals. They should stay out there.
What was the other thing you asked about?
I asked about...
alligators.
Alligators, yes, the alligators.
Yeah, there's an alligator hunt that happens every year in the Everglades, and we do a demonstration. But unfortunately, that's probably not going to change for a while because the FWC, the Fish and Wildlife Commission, those people on the Fish and Wildlife Commission that regulate hunting. Well, first of all, they make money by selling licenses. Secondly, the people on the Fish and Wildlife Commission are not elected by the public, so they don't have to answer to anybody. They're appointed by politicians.
Oh, wow.
And they're usually there for many, many years. A lot of them themselves are hunters. So you're really not going to find much help or much sympathy for Florida wildlife when they actually promote hunting instead of doing the best they can to
well, you're doing the best. You're doing the best you can with protesting with your peers who feel the same way as you.
Yeah. Well, we do a protest. We speak at FWC meetings from time to time, and a lot of people show up at those meetings, and they do get an earful of people. I mean, a few hunters show up. I've been to those meetings. A couple of hunters show up, and then there's like 50 or 60 people speaking on the other side saying, we don't want black bears hunted in areas. We don't want alligators hunted. Leave Florida's wildlife the way it is. These animals have been here, like alligators, for millions of years. They don't need us to manage their numbers. They've been doing it very well for millions of years. We don't need to interfere.
Yeah, no, you don't need to disrupt the ecosystem at all.
Exactly.
What about wild pigs? Are they a nuisance around here?
Yeah, not too much in South Florida, but in Central and Northern Florida, there's they like to do these hog dog hunts where they set a bunch of dogs out to chase after and kill these pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, they've been here, to the best of my knowledge, for 500 years. They were brought here from Spain and from other countries, and they really should be thought of as native species. They really should be, because they've been here for so many years, for hundreds and hundreds of years. And all they do is forage around open areas and forests and things. They don't really, if one manages to come by somebody's rural home, again, don't leave food around, and they'll move on.
They'll move on.
This whole idea that we've got to slaughter everything that we see is not the correct.
Well, you got parents worried for their children's safety, because hogs or boars, they're pretty vicious animals if you come in contact with one. That's what it is. Is the parents are really scared for the safety of their children. That's the first instinct that they have in their mind.
Yeah, they can be a little aggressive at times, but usually not unless they're provoked. Another big thing that people need to watch out for are Muscovy ducks. We have a lot of Muscovy ducks all over South Florida, all over the state, actually.
Mm-hmm.
These are the big, fat, waddling ducks, and they're usually either black or dark gray, and they have the mask, the red on the face,
the mask on the face, yeah.
And they make these hissing noises, but you know what? They're not aggressive at all.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. And people say, "Oh, they make a mess on the sidewalk and in the driveway." Well, there's very, very low chance of anybody getting any kind of a disease or any kind of a problem from that. Any worse than a squirrel going to the bathroom, or an opossum, or a raccoon, or any other wild animal, bird droppings, or anything else. It's not any worse or any more dangerous than that.
Yeah.
The mess that they may make on the sidewalk, hose it down, it goes away.
Hose it down, yeah. Put a little bleach on it, it'll go away.
Yeah,
that's what they're worried about. They're worried about.
But you know what?
They're dropping.
We have a person who works for the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida who specializes in Muscovy ducks and controlling the populations. Now, when you've got a big population of Muscovy ducks, like in a condo or in a homeowner association, the first thing people want to do is round them up and trap them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they call trappers. If you call the trapper is going to round them up and kill them, no matter what the trapper says, because it's not legal to move them to another location in the state, because they're not deemed actual native animals, because they too were brought here hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Yes.
So anytime you call the trapper, these animals are going to be scooped up, netted, caught in one way or another. Then they're going to have their necks wrung, or they're going to have their heads chopped off, or they're going to be just stuffed into plastic bags and suffocate. It's not a pleasant thing, but that's what happens to Muscovy ducks when they're captured in Florida. So what do you do about an overpopulation of ducks? How do you keep the numbers down? That's what our specialist goes around and teaches people. And I do it right here in my neighborhood, and the association loves it. It doesn't cost a cent.
Yes.
Here's what you do. When a Muscovy duck female lays eggs, she usually lays anywhere from 12 to 20 eggs, and you don't know how many there's going to be, but it's usually one per day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you notice that in the corner of your house, or in the corner of your yard, or someplace, some little protected area, you notice an egg there, or a couple of eggs there, don't disrupt the nest. Let the mother duck lay her eggs. She lays them one per day.
Mm-hmm.
And you just go out there and just take a look every day. And you see 3 eggs, and then you see 4 eggs, and then you see 5 eggs. Let's say it goes up to about 17 eggs.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you go out on Monday, there's 17 eggs. You go out on Tuesday, still 17 eggs. You go out on Wednesday, still 17 eggs. Thursday, 17. Once you hit like 3 or 4 days in a row and the number does not increase, then she's done laying the eggs.
Okay.
Then what you can do, very simply, is pick up all the eggs, put them in a plastic bag, refrigerate them, and that'll stop them from forming in the first place. It doesn't hurt anybody. There's no live duckling in there to be killed. It's not cruel. It's a cruelty-free way to control the duck population.
It's the
and
best way.
And at this point, they don't look any different than the eggs that you buy in the supermarket. I mean, there's nothing that's growing in there.
Are they?
So what you do is you go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to ask a question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now, were you going to ask, are they edible?
I was going to say yes. Are they edible?
How did I know you were going to ask
You
that?
knew exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, actually, yes. You can. I've never eaten a duck egg because I'm vegan. I don't eat any animal products.
Okay.
And then the idea of eating a duck or a chicken egg is, it's a chicken, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's an unfertilized egg that you buy in the supermarket that passed through. It's the whole idea is disgusting. But anyway, as far as the duck eggs, you can cook them.
You can.
And I feed them to the dogs because they like them.
Yeah.
If you cook them and make sure there's no salmonella or anything, and you get them to just like you would do with a supermarket egg. But the trick is, if you're going to collect these duck eggs, don't disrupt the laying process, because if you pick up 3 eggs or 4 eggs, and she's got a lot more delay, she's going to go hide them someplace else.
Yeah. Because
the
nest has been
you let her
destroyed.
finish with all the eggs in one spot. Once you see 3 or 4 days go by, and there's no more eggs there,
Yeah.
then you can pick them up, refrigerate them, and then either eat them or throw them away or do whatever you want. And it's a cruelty-free way to keep the population down.
That is the best way. So you're not killing off an animal who has lived and could continue to live if it wasn't for someone taking them out of the water and lopping their head off, basically.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Could I ask you?
And unfortunately, if you don't do that, then they have a high mortality rate in cities and around residential areas, because a lot of times the mother and the babies are crossing streets and they get run over.
Yeah,
it's a horrible sight. So if you keep them from forming and being born in the first place, you're avoiding that, and you're avoiding future generations from the ones that do last. The ones that do survive. It's a win-win all around. This is what all the wildlife experts suggest doing. Collecting the eggs, refrigerating them, and stopping them from hatching in the first place.
And disposing them or putting them back into the soil. Because they are good compost. I do have one question.
Yeah.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
No comment.
It's $1 million question. That's a $64,000 question.
If I knew that, I'd be rich. I don't know. I don't think anybody can answer that.
Nobody can answer that.
But I know we're getting to the end of the show in the next couple of minutes. If you want any more information about this issue or any Florida animal issue, check out the website. It's ARFF, Animal Rights Foundation of Florida, ARFF.org. And on the left side of the page, you'll see a little link that says campaigns and issues, and there's everything you need to know about circuses and everything you need to know about Muscovy ducks and wild pigs.
And they can contact you there.
And everything else there, yeah.
I'm going to post...
yeah,
go ahead.
You can become a member of the Animal Rights Foundation of Florida. If you go to the website, down on the left side, there's a little donation button. If you make a donation in any amount, you will become a member. And like 3 or 4 times a year, we send out a newsletter. We send out a legislative update, so you know what's happening in Tallahassee and animal issues. And that way, you can get as involved as you like, or not involved if you don't like. If you want to go and stand outside and do a protest, you could do that. If you'd rather write a letter, you could do that. If you'd rather just call a politician and say, vote no on this, then you could do that as well. There's a lot of different things that need to be done, and you can get as involved as you like.
Any help is encouraged, is what you're saying. Any help.
That's right. A voice for the animals.
Right, exactly.
A voice for the animal, exactly.
Right.
I'm going to post you guys to our Facebook, For the Love of Animals, Facebook.com/ For the Love of Animals radio.
Okay.
And I'll post you up there, so then our viewers can view this call and this show that we have going on.
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
I really appreciate you calling, Don. Really.
Thank you so much. I learned a
thank
lot.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, I've learned a lot as well. I really appreciate you calling in.
People tell me I talk too fast sometimes, but I got a lot of information and a little bit of time to give it out.
No, you got it in you got it in perfect. You did great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
nice
you,
talking to
Don.
you both.
I'll
Thank
talk
you.
to you.
Okay,
All right.
take care.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
That's a nice day. He had a lot of information.
He had a lot of information for us,
Right?
which, we had all that, stapled out for our show also. That's why I didn't want to get into circuses in the
Right.
beginning of the show, because I knew he was going to talk about
Yeah.
his circuses, because that's what I looked at online. That's basically why I called him, because he knows a lot more information about it.
Yeah, because he was talking earlier about the inspectors from the Department of Agriculture.
Yes.
And there's actually less than 100 of them. And there's like 12,000 circus-related facilities in America. So, you know what I mean? It's, you know, they can't get everywhere. That's why they need activists. That's
Dang.
why they, you know.
I wanted to ask him what he ate for Thanksgiving if being a vegan.
Oh.
Forgot all about that.
You have to message him.
Um,
The chicken and the egg thing, that was
the
good,
chicken,
though.
yeah, chicken and the egg. Well, because we were talking about eggs, I wanted to see if he knew the answer. You catch this on our Facebook.com / For the Love of Animals Radio. You could also go on Spreaker For the Love of Animals. We're also on Stitcher, STITCHER. And we're on YouTube as well. Just type in For the Love of Animals, and you could listen to me and Maria interview Don from ARF.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
He was a good guy.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm surprised how much he's involved in a lot.
Right.
In a lot. On the website, go on his website, arff.org,
Arf.
and you'll be able to check out exactly what he's doing. I'm going to post this on our Facebook, and that's
Yeah.
that's
Good
what
deal.
I'll do right now.
Good
I'm
deal.
going to do that
Like
right
his,
now.
Like his page.
Yeah, like his page.
Like his page.
Like
Get
us.
involved. Yeah.
If you like us, like us.
Yes.
Please like us. I was just looking at. I can't believe that he didn't hear about the Eaten Alive Discovery Channel thing. I mean, I can understand he doesn't watch much TV, but that's happening this week.
Right.
Will you be tuning in?
Possibly.
Possibly.
I don't know. I might be out in the boat.
No. On the boat.
On the boat.
On the boat. No, yeah.
And that's what, and even when we do that, sometimes I feel bad for like the fish that get caught up in the net and even the little shrimp, but but
they lived. I'd say fish have it better than the meat that we eat because the fish that is caught lived in their environment for all their life.
Right.
All their life and lived a healthy, happy life before getting caught, of course. But with meat and in farms and going to the slaughterhouse, their life probably wasn't really that good. It probably sucked. Excuse my French, but
but it's the whole circle of life thing,
But
That's
that's a part of what we our society has come to survive.
Yes.
I'll be watching that Eaten Alive. I want to take a look. I want to take a look at that and see what happens. What they do.
And it's funny you said that about he hasn't watched much TV. I didn't see it on TV either. I saw it on my news feed. So. But if we think about it,
he says he doesn't watch TV, which is understandable. He's probably a very busy man, being the chairman of ARF.
Arf.
He does a lot of other things also.
Good for him.
With farm animals and companion animals.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot protecting the wildlife of Florida, which we discussed. But,
right.
But that was Don. That was good. How much time we got? We got 3 minutes.
Wow.
We got 3 minutes.
We flew through the show today.
We flew through the show.
No commercial breaks.
2 minutes. I'm being told 2 minutes.
Yeah. But definitely check out our page. For
the people who listen to us today and understand or is going to go on YouTube and watch the animals, how they're trained for circuses, there's many things you could do for that. You can go to non-animal circuses, or like Cirque du Freak, Cirque du Soleil. You can go there. Those are humans performing, and not animals.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to tell you guys not to go to SeaWorld because that's at your own discretion. But SeaWorld is one of those places that really don't treat their animals well, and that's the bottom line, really.
Mm-hmm.
You can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com / For the Love of Animals. We'll post everything up that we had talked about today.
We will.
And we will be back next week.
Yes, Chrissy might be back next week.
Chrissy will be back next week.
Okay.
I mean, I thought she would have came in today, but that's why I didn't. We have a special guest next week. She's talking about the Mexican gray wolves.
Right.
We have a caller coming in.
That's her favorite topic.
That's her favorite animal.
Favorite.
Yes.
So
we will be talking about that next week.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thank you so much
as always,
for listening.
thank
Really.
you to our listeners. And
please keep on tuning in. Like us on Facebook. I'm Tim.
And I'm Maria.
And we're For the Love of Animals, and we're out.
Have a great day.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blood?